Alright guys, so the brand new Mosler Super GT Special Event has already arrived, and I was planning to make this video a bit earlier, but I have been quite busy, basically just like the previous week. So yeah, I am doing this right now in order to give you all guys my thoughts on this Mosler Super GT, which I got the chance to completely max out by spending some cash on some bundles that appeared yesterday, I think it was. And yeah, I will let you know my thoughts in regards to this car, because I do really think it's not a bad car, but the Koenigsegg Gemera Key is included within this Mosler Super GT Special Event, and I do really think that the Koenigsegg Gemera is far more useful if you think about it as a gauntlet-oriented car, as a time-limited events car, or even as a classic multiplayer car, So yeah, today I will give you all my thoughts, but with nothing else to add, let's jump straight into it. Okay, so first of all, you need to know that there is a special event calculator for this specific Mosler Super GT special event, which you can check right now on this video description. And there you can calculate how far could you go inside this Mosler Super GT special event based on your current garage, on the cars you already own, and all that stuff, which I think it's quite useful in order to decide whether going for this Mosler Super GT or just trying to reach the Koenigsegg Gemera stage and that stuff. But well, let's begin with the general context, because the requirements for this Mosler Super GT, leaving aside the McLaren Sabre and the Koenigsegg Gemera, which by the way I think are the hardest cars from the entire requirements list, are not the highest one, considering how the Mosler Super GT is a car with over 5,000 rank points, which is quite high, is almost at the top of the S-Class. And in general, it's not a bad car. I mean, in terms of performance, the Mosler Super GT has a really solid top speed, is extremely floaty, just like I told you on all the videos I made about this car before the special event started. So yeah, this time it was slightly harder. The game loved learned the lesson, and they didn't give us the chance to unlock this car before the special allowed us to do so, because I had to purchase these bundles in order to obtain all the blueprints, which combined with the blueprints I got the chance to obtain from this special event gave me all what I needed in order to 6-star my Mosler Super GT. So for everyone else, well, you all guys will have to unlock the 180 conditions, I think it is, you need in order to have access to the token packs of the Mosler Super GT, where you will have the chance to max out on your own. Another good thing, I think, it's the fact that the requirements token packs are quite cheap, considering how you can completely max out the Koenigsegg Gemera by spending your tokens on a 70, 150 token packs, which are these requirements packs. So in general, I think it's a good price for a broken car like the Koenigsegg Gemera. In regards to all the other requirements, I have to admit that the McLaren Sabre and the Aston Martin DBS Superleggera are other cars I do really enjoy driving from time to time on multiplayer, but in general are not as powerful as the Koenigsegg Gemera, because on MP2 and MP1 you have a wider use for the Koenigsegg Gemera than all the other cars. But anyways, now let's focus into the Mosler Super GT 6 stars performance, because I already got the chance to completely max out the car. I just need a few epic import parts. And I have to admit that, I mean, it feels great, but the acceleration is definitely fake. Some of you guys told me that the Mosler Super GT acceleration was not 83 points once you completely max out the car. And I have to admit that maybe you all guys were quite right in this regard, because this car acceleration definitely doesn't feel like an 83 points value acceleration. So yeah, in general, that's a bit disappointing, because I expected this car to have, a bit more of a solid acceleration compared to other high top speed oriented cars like the Koenigsegg Jesco, which has a really good top speed but it's not the best acceleration. The Hennessy Venom F5 is quite floaty, just like this Mosler Super GT, but it's not the fastest in terms of acceleration either. And well, then you have the Drive Syndicate super cars like the Arash Imperium and the Koenigsegg Jesco Absolute, which, well, the Absolute doesn't have as much as a top tier acceleration when compared to the Arash or the Raers Tartarus, but still is way more solid than this Mosler Super GT acceleration. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing, but on the other side you have a really good top speed, and the car it's quite floaty, but you know, you have to like punch drift in order to be able to lock the floatiness of this car, or you have to land a certain way in order to lock like the floaty capabilities of this Mosler Super GT. So yeah, that's something you should really keep in mind if you want to enjoy this car at its fullest, because otherwise you will try to drift and the car will just stick to the floor, and well, it will be quite annoying. But you know, it's quite easy to fix because you only have to drift punch or land after you take a ramp on a certain way in order to like sort of unlock the floating capability of this Mosler Super GT, which are really solid and really good. I have to admit that the drift radius while you are floating with this car is quite wide, and you will see that in some of the races I will be posting right now on this video. It's like expected because some cars tend to go wide while floating, like the Devil 16. For the Devil 16 can go quite wide while taking a corner floaty and doing a floaty drift or something like that. And basically the same happens on this Mosler Super GT, which is quite funny, but on the other side it's quite annoying, can be quite frustrating in some tracks where the corners are quite sharp because, well, you will likely hit the wall. But yeah, I was taking a corner and the car started to float, but then it just went super wide and I ended up hitting the wall, which wasn't super optimal, but you know, I kinda expected that because this car floats like really well. It has a really consistent floaty capabilities. I expected some disadvantage because of this, you know, so that's about it. Should you go for this Mosler? Most of you guys who are watching this, I guess, will be quite close to achieve all the conditions required to unlock the token packs and finally unlock the Mosler Super GT. And you might be wondering if it's worth to go for this car or if you should rather focus on the Koenigsegg Gemera. Well, I am a quite casual player and I do enjoy driving cars with better acceleration than this Mosler Super GT, and despite I have to admit that the Mosler Super GT is quite fun to drive, I would rather go for the Koenigsegg Gemera, you know, because in Gauntlet it will be far more useful, despite you won't be able to gold max your Koenigsegg Gemera from this event because the epic import parts that this special event gives for the support cars are really few. On the other side, I don't really think like the Koenigsegg Gemera can give you way more rewards from multiplayer and all that stuff compared to this Mosler, but you know, it's like not as convincing as the Koenigsegg Gemera, at least from my perspective. I do agree that most of you guys are far more competitive players than I am, so who knows, maybe for you guys it makes sense to go for the Mosler rather than the Gemera. But either way, if you have been saving tokens for a long time enough, you might be able to just go for both the Mosler and the Koenigsegg Gemera, which in total should be like 60 to 80,000 tokens, which is a ton of tokens, I know, but I mean, some of you guys have been saving tokens for so long, and we have absolutely no clue in regards to the parts of speed cars of this November. So yeah, your best choice might just be to go for the Koenigsegg Gemera and the Mosler and forget about everything else, because I don't have quite huge expectations in regards to the parts of speed. I don't know, it's like a heartbeat or something like that, you know guys. I have absolutely no clue in regards to the burst of speed cars, or maybe I am not as clueless as I claim to be, but I can tell you all guys right now because you know that might get me in trouble with Gameloft. But either way, the thing is that I don't have really high expectations when it comes to the parts of speed. The Mosler is a really good top speed oriented car, and the Koenigsegg Gemera is a really good acceleration oriented car, which is really helpful specifically for Gauntlet and classic multiplayer. So you might just have the best of the two worlds, the top speed world and the acceleration based world. Either way, now it's your turn guys. I already shared my thoughts in regards to this special event and all the implications it has. Not the easiest special event, specifically if you are a newcomer, but if you have been playing this game for quite a while and if you have quite a nice amount of tokens, you might have just to spend them all on this special event. Either way, which are your plans for this Mosler Super GT special event? Make sure to drop your like and subscribe in order to not miss absolutely anything in regards to Asphalt Legends. And I will see you really soon as usual with much more Asphalt content.